Nnamdi Kanu is outside. In 2 minutes, this nonsense will stop. Who is the idiot? Who is the bagger? That will speak when I'm talking. Who is the fool?
All hail Biafra. All hail Biafra.
Biafra said today, for the simple reason that she has no jurisdiction to try me. None whatsoever. I came out of courtesy and respect. She stands recused from my case and cannot try my case. A lot of you do not know. It is my duty to make that very, very clear to all of you today. Because the lies are too much. The lies are too much.
So it's been a while that we talked about Nnamdi Kanu, and somehow it seems everyone has forgotten Nnamdi Kanu. I could remember back then some people said, should Nnamdi Kanu get arrested? Some said, should anything happen to Nnamdi Kanu? Some said, if their leader, supreme leader, is imprisoned, hell will break loose. Well, I'm sure you know the rest of the story and the answer. Right now, as I speak, there is an update. Nnamdi Kanu has rejected a voluntary transfer from the Sokoto Custodial Center to Abuja to protect his ongoing legal appeal against life sentence. Now, prior to this, Nnamdi Kanu had defended himself. He had told his lawyers to sit back and watch. Well, he was advised against this, but he insisted, saying that this is what he wants to do, that he is done with this circus. Some had suggested that if Nnamdi Kanu had retained his lawyer, he might not necessarily get out of this, but he will be in DSS custody. But the man wants to be done with it. He's tired. He wants to be sentenced once and for all. He wants to defend himself to the best of his ability. And it was swift. Immediately, he decided to defend himself. There was nothing more. He lacked the experience to do this, to meander the court. Well, they wanted Nnamdi Kanu to be in Abuja, so it would be easier for his lawyers to do what they need to do. But he was sent to Sokoto for reasons best known to the government. Maybe they felt that if Nnamdi Kanu is in Abuja, as at this moment and time, it will kind of make it easier for certain persons to gather in Abuja, maybe protesting or whatever. But they had to kind of send him to Abuja. Now, he's rejecting a voluntary transfer, meaning the Sokoto prison wants to, like, you know what, let's send him to Abuja. Let him be in Abuja. His wife, Uchechi, and his brother, Emmanuel, clarified that the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra turned down diplomatic and extrajudicial offers for a relocation. Now, I do not know the reasons why he refused to. Maybe to him, this is a show of strength. At times, one needs help. One has to be kind of a little bit diplomatic, let me put it that way. You cannot fight someone who is stronger than you. You can't fight someone who is stronger than you and win without tact. Application of weakness that will eventually become strength. He refused a diplomatic offer. Why? Let us look at it. Why Nnamdi Kanu rejected the relocation? Legal strategy risk. His legal team believes that accepting a voluntary transfer outside of a direct judicial mandate could allow state prosecutors to argue that he has abandoned the grounds of his appeal. Now, this is technical. That if he accepts moving to Abuja from Lagos, it could result to Abuja arguing, the state prosecutors arguing, that is the government prosecutor saying, oh, he has abandoned his grounds of appeal. He has been kind of, well, I don't know what the technicality is. I'm kind of trying to understand what that part means for Nnamdi Kanu. Like, he cannot appeal. Is he appealing Sokoto, Abuja, or is he appealing against life sentence? They will say, well, his life sentence is in Sokoto, and now that he has moved to Abuja, he can no longer appeal life sentence. Now, they need to let us understand what that means. Another is the core appeal ground. His initial forced relocation to a prison over 700 kilometers away in Sokoto is being heavily cited in his appeal as evidence of judicial bias and exceptional hardship. I don't know if that holds water. It doesn't hold water because when you are sentenced, you have lost a lot of rights. You cannot say, have been sentenced to Madiguri, have been sentenced to Sokoto, have been sentenced to... You can be sentenced to wherever. There is no law per se that stipulates that if a crime is committed, for example, in Anambra, you cannot be sentenced, life imprisonment for that matter, to wherever in Nigeria. There is no law that states that you should be around that vicinity to an extent. I don't think. So I'm kind of looking at the weakness in the appeal of Nnamdi Kanu's lawyer. Then another is insistence on court order. Kanu represented himself. It's called proceed in the court of appeal and insist that any change to his facility must come through an official court order rather than a political or diplomatic pressure. So he wants it to be documented that the government officially, letterhead, government is sending him, transferring him from Sokoto to Abuja. This is basically what it is. So the family public statements on newspaper pages also serve to caution supporters and foreign entities, including British consular officials, against pushing for a compromise that could sabotage his legal challenge. So basically, this is what we have on our hands. We could go further, like looking at health challenges. Nnamdi Kanu's current legal appeal features 22 distinct grounds to overturn his terrorism conviction and life sentence. His legal battles from the Sokoto Custodial Center focuses on judicial bias. I want you to look at what his lawyers are looking at. Judicial bias, procedural violations, and severe humanitarian concerns. These are the basic that Nnamdi Kanu's lawyers are arguing. One, let us look at one. Specific grounds of the appeal. The Sokoto sentencing. Error. Kanu argued, or let's say argued, or is arguing that moving his detention over 700 kilometers from Abuja proves judicial bias and deliberately strips away his right to a fair hearing by making legal and family access nearly impossible. Errors of law. The appeal filed on February 4th, 2026 states that Justice James Omotosho, you know him, committed 22 distinct errors in his final judgment. Insufficient evidence. Kanu proceed, that is defending himself, asserts that the federal government failed to prove any of the 7 terrorism counts beyond a reasonable doubt. Repealed legislation. The trial court is accused of utilizing outdated or completely repealed law to secure the conviction. You all know Nnamdi Kanu when he was screaming, saying that you don't know the law. Omotosho, you don't know the law. The law states that you cannot try me using a law that is no longer, you know the rest of the story, an expired law. You cannot use outdated or expired law to judge me. And what is this expired law talking about? What is it about? It is still simple technicality that you cannot try me over a crime that was not committed on the soils of Nigeria. It is a crime that you guys said I committed outside of the shores of Nigeria. You said I committed it in Europe. So you cannot try me for a crime that I committed in Europe. Now here comes the technicality and interpretation of it. There is no way Nnamdi Kanu can escape it per se. But then, is he going to be charged for inciting or terrorism? That is where the inciting. Can someone be sentenced for life for inciting? What is the incite about? They claim that Nnamdi Kanu, using Radio Biafra and other means, was able to manipulate people to unalive themselves or cause harm to other people or create chaos. That's basically what it is. Then government and court response. What are they responsible? The Nigerian Correctional Service (NCOS) maintains that its facility is fully equipped to handle Nnamdi Kanu's safety and welfare. Then the other is court refusal. The Federal High Court repeatedly rejected Nnamdi Kanu's urgent motions for a relocation to Kuje or Suleja, ruling that prison transfer require verifiable, compelling reasons and cannot be passed through fast-tracked ex parte orders. Silent executive branch. What does that mean? The presidency and Ministry of Justice have ignored informal diplomatic avenues for a voluntary move, leaving the matter entirely in the hands of the Court of Appeal. So as it is, he himself is saying, okay, you know what? I want this to be official. Now, what is the other thing? Pre-existing fragile state, heightened health concerns. Nnamdi Kanu family emphasizes that he requires highly specialized daily medication managed by trusted private medical physicians. And the other is the harsh northern climate. Activists and family members express deep fear over the extreme heat, poor ventilation, and difficult physical conditions at Sokoto facility, which they claim is explicitly designed to crush his physical well-being. I know some people might argue by saying, okay, what about those prisoners that are in Sokoto? Are you saying Northerners should be the one in Sokoto prison since they are used to such climate? So Nnamdi Kanu, who has been sentenced to life imprisonment, should be pampered. These are some of the responses of some people. Then, United States Congressman John James recently warned the U.S. House of Representatives that Nnamdi Kanu's physical state is rapidly deteriorating due to prolonged isolation. Let us look, since we are looking at all of this, let us also look at the specific timeline of his upcoming appeal. What next? What next? I'm sure a lot of people want to know. So the Court of Appeal hearing status, let me tell you a little bit about it. Nnamdi Kanu's legal team officially submitted the 22 grounds notice of appeal on February 4th, 2026, seeking to completely overturn his life sentence. That is what they are working upon. They want to overturn that life sentence. Like, no, this is not supposed to be. His lead counsel, Aloy Ejimako, confirmed that while terrorism-related appeals move under accelerated rules, compiling massive case records from Abuja Federal Court has slowed progress. Proceed request. Now, that's where it becomes complex. Nnamdi Kanu demanded to be physically present at the appellate court hearings and intends to argue portions of his defense himself. So, that's it basically. Let us see how all of this turns out to be. You know how it all started? The extraordinary rendition 2021 from Kenya. Aside Nnamdi Kanu holding a British citizenship, which the United Kingdom has already stated that any of its dual national who, according to them, has committed a crime or is being alleged to have committed a crime, that they, as a country, will not in any way be held responsible for the well-being of such persons unless you do not hold dual nationality. That's been stated clearly by the United Kingdom. So that's it. Well, with the Nnamdi Kanu's matter, we still have factional split. IPOB is in crisis. Nnamdi Kanu's life imprisonment has fractured IPOB internal operations with an open leadership war. On June 17, 2026, the long-standing Directorate of State DOS, led by Chika Edoziem, indefinitely suspended Kanu as his group supreme leader. Can you imagine? So Nnamdi Kanu has been suspended. They allege that security agencies monitored his unguarded communications from Sokoto prisons. So you see why we have to touch on it. They said that Nnamdi Kanu did not codedly, let me put it in that way, communicate from Sokoto prison, and that security agents were able to gather information resulting in the arrest and death of localized members. I'm sure most of you do not know that this happened. You do not know. So that's what Chika Edoziem is saying, that Nnamdi Kanu has been suspended. He no longer represents IPOB as or in the capacity of a supreme leader. That he is not a supreme leader anymore, that he has been suspended, that he can no longer give order from Sokoto. Well, as it is right now, operating from prison, Nnamdi Kanu dissolved Edoziem's faction and inaugurated a new US-based fourth administration led by Chris Nwaogu. He dispatched letters on June 24, 2026, alerting 72 international embassies, including the US and UK, to ignore the old DOS faction. So, it is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. What are your thoughts? Nnamdi Kanu wants to hold on to power in prison. It takes a lot of, it takes a lot and a lot and a lot and a lot of. I knew that's what's going to happen anyway. I knew it was going to become faction upon faction. It has always been the style and this has always been how it has been. It is not possible for you to run this. You can only do it for a short time. Also considering this imprisonment, it is going to definitely bring about somebody else trying to take the bull by the horn, and there's still going to be more splinter faction. That's the truth. There's still going to be more and more. The only thing holding people, or let's say slowing down multiplication of factions, is the fear, home and abroad, of being arrested and imprisoned. What happened to Nnamdi Kanu, and what happened to Simon Ekpa, and what could happen to anybody, regardless of where you are located, is the reason why we have not seen several factions. That's the reason why. Because it is now glaring to millions of whoever it is out there that might want to. They have now kind of observed, they have now noticed that you it doesn't matter if you are in Asia, as long as your identity as supreme leader or factional leader or regional leader, whichever, as long as your reach can be felt in the southeast of Nigeria and the federal government is aware of you, they will touch you. They will touch you, grab you, and you might even be shocked that whatever country that you are in, you might be dealt with. You might be dealt with. You might be arrested because you'll be tagged a terrorist financier. That's it, basically. It is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Clamoring for breakup of Nigeria will remain. It is not going to stop. It is not going to stop. A lot of Nigerians are not happy. They've been disenfranchised, and so many terrible things are happening. But if we look inwards, majority also they have the characteristics of that same terribleness that we are talking about. That same terrible thing that we are talking about. They have it inside of them as a person. If you look at life in general, your manifestation as a person, you'll see the same. So what we need is a very tough stance. How do we put this Nigeria in the right space? Or how do we, as people, how do we move to the next level? Should break up be the thing, the way forward? There's nothing wrong or bad about breakup, really. There's nothing wrong about it, really. A lot of people want a total disintegration of Nigeria. Really, they want it. Total disintegration of Nigeria. A lot of people do want it. I know it comes with its own challenges, truly. But then maybe it will kind of bring about a shift in the way people see the nation that they have now been that has now been created, or they are now part of. Maybe to give them that extra, the feel of, yes, this is our country. Maybe then patriotism will come in. Maybe then people will want to guide and protect like a newborn baby. And then comes the enforcement of law. Because normally, human beings, regardless of their race, they want to do bad. It is now the enforcement of law, the punitive measures, that puts them in check. That's the truth of it. If you look at countries where things work, it is that punitive measure, punishment. When you commit this crime, this is what's going to happen to you. All of a sudden, everybody's behaving well. That's it.